starting off our picks for last month, we had a subscription box pick, so I chose A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer R. Oh, I did the Yep, okay. I just needed to reboot my brain there for a second. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my June TBR. In June, we have like no plans really. I mean, I have a couple of vlog ideas that I'm going to be working on, but there's no like readathons or anything I'm participating in June. It's just the start of all the fun summer stuff, and I'm also going to the beach bunch, so we'll see how much reading I actually do get done, because I have significantly less time. And while I do tend to sometimes read a lot when I'm on the beach, I also sometimes tend to not read a lot when I'm at the beach. So it's kind of a toss-up, and we'll see what happens. But this month, I'm very excited. It's my favorite month of the year. I am a little biased because it is my birthday month, but I love June. I love all the summer stuff, and I'm really excited to dive into some of my summer reads. So before we do that, before we figure out what the basket has in store for June, let's take a look at last month, because if you guys remember, last month was rough, to say the least. So the first pick for last month was a subscription box, a book that came in a subscription box, and that I chose A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout, the second in the From Blood and Ash series. We then had an illustrated cover, and so I read The Off Limits Rule, or I chose The Off Limits Rule by Sarah Adams. I did read a book with a tagline, and I chose Never Fall for Your Fiancé by Virginia Heath. Next was to read an anticipated book, and I chose the third book in the Fortuna Sworn series, Deadly Dreams by KJ Sutton. The next was read a book with a dark cover, so I chose Bay of Sighs by Nora Roberts, which is the second in the Guardians trilogy. The next was read a book that everyone's talking about, so I chose the fifth and final book in the Percy Jackson series, The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. We then had to read a book with a light cover, and I chose Island of Glass by Nora Roberts, which is the third book in the Guardians trilogy. And then finally was to read a hardcover, and I chose The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. So honestly, at this point, it's just going to be easier to tell you what I did read, because I did not do so hot. So if you guys saw, I read both of the Nora Roberts books for a vlog. I did read The Off Limits Rule as well, and that's honestly about it. I'm in the middle of reading Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, so this one's probably going to be one of the first few books that I read in the beginning of June, so I do still have that, but otherwise this stack is just sad. So we didn't get to The Lost Apothecary. I will say that the Percy Jackson book, though I didn't get to it last month, I'm rolling over into June, so this will be, I guess, my first official thing that I'm adding to my TBR, because this is going to be my middle grade pick for June, so I do need to get to that one. I did not get to Deadly Dreams, unfortunately, and I did not get to Never Fall for Your Fiancé. So, there's a lot of things I didn't get to, which honestly, fair. I made last month's TBR kind of as I just wanted to make it because I thought it would be fun and also see what I could get on there. But last month, I did not read a whole lot because I was obsessed with some of my rereads, but that is beside the point. So, with that being said, no fun stuff to add to this month's TBR as far as like a reward or anything. So let's just dive right into the first pick. Pick number 1. Ooh, a book out of my comfort zone. So the first prompt this month is to read a book out of your comfort zone. And this one is way, way out of my comfort zone. And this is When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. This is actually a Patreon buddy read, or not buddy read, but book club. This is from G from Book Roast. This is, I believe, her May and June. I think she has them in 2 months, but it's the one for June regardless. I do have this from my library, so I'm ready to go with the audiobook whenever I want. But the reason it's on here is A, because it is an adult fantasy, so I kind of am not sure how I feel about some adult fantasies, but it's a speculative novel, and that's really kind of what it's kind of got me questioning it. Basically, this book takes place in the 50s, and there's this thing that was called the mass dragoning of 1955. And basically what that was a bunch of women turned into dragons and flew away. And so we follow our main character, Alex, whose aunt is one of these women who was turned into a dragon and kind of, I guess not turned into, was turned into, but just turned into a dragon. And the question is, was it their choice? What happened? What's become of them? And so she's trying to figure out what's going on because her mother did not turn into one. And it's also at this time period where it was like very, very, women had specific roles in the household and things of that nature. And so it's like forbidden to speak of the people who left. And so they kind of act like her aunt didn't exist. And so she's trying to figure out what's going on and live. I'm sure there's way more to the story than that, but that's the idea, is basically all these women just randomly turned into dragons and Alex left in the aftermath of all of that. So we'll see what this is about. I'm hesitantly optimistic about this. It might end up being really, really good. I don't know, but it's not a story. It was really popular, I think, a few months ago, like kind of has been circulating for a while, but there's just something about it that is making me nervous about it. And it's not something I would have normally kind of gravitated towards, but it is a book club and I am trying to be better at book clubs. So we're going to give it a try and see what happens. I don't know. It could be really interesting. We'll see. Pick number 2. Read a book with an Asian main character or author. The next book is to read a book that has an Asian main character or is written by an Asian author. And so for this one, I'm going to go with Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. It says here, there's always a price for defying destiny. This is a fairy book that I actually got. I just checked it. I got it in August of last year. So hopefully we are going to get to it soon. I'm not sure about the main character. The main female lead might be an Asian main character, but the author is definitely Asian as well. So that's kind of where that fits in. This story is kind of a YA fantasy, a little bit fantasy romance, fantasy story. We follow our main character, Violet, who is basically a liar. It says here that Violet is a prophet and a liar and has been influencing the royal court with her cleverly phrased and not always true divinations. So it sounds like she's basically just a charlatan of sorts. And she has been having like a lot of issues with the prince, Cyrus. And he has basically sworn to her that once he becomes king at the end of the summer, she's out of a job. And the king, the current king, so Cyrus's father, basically comes to her and asks her to predict a false prediction, that something about Cyrus finding love at a recent or an upcoming ball. And so in doing so, she kind of kicks off this prophecy. And based on who Cyrus chooses, could be good, could be bad, we'll see. And so Violet is kind of like thrown into this mess of stuff, but she also, of course, has some sort of attraction towards Cyrus. And so she's trying to figure out this whole, whatever this prophecy is, who knows, but also like maybe fighting her feelings for Cyrus as well. So it feels like court intrigue. I'm very interested about this. It is the first in a series, but there is no second one, and I haven't been able to find a date for the second one yet. So this is right now the only book in the series, but I am trying to get through my subscription box books because I have so many and I just really need to read them. And they all sound really, really good. So it's not like I don't want to read them. I just don't have time for them. So this prompt is forcing me to read one that I probably wouldn't have put on here any sooner, but I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really interesting. It has these beautiful ombre edges. Look at that. So I'm really excited about this, and I don't know when else I would have picked it up. So this prompt is perfect. Also, it has this fun little book ribbon, which I love. So yeah, we're going to be getting to this one in June. Number 3. Read a nonfiction. The next prompt is to read a nonfiction, which is perfect because you guys know that I try to get a nonfiction in every month. Did not do so hot last month. So this month we are going to be reading another Nancy Goldstone book, which if you've been here around here for a while, you know that I love her. She's an amazing historical nonfiction writer. I'm very excited. The one I'm going to be picking is called The Lady Queen, and this is the notorious reign of Joanna I, Queen of Naples, Jerusalem, and Sicily. So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's going to be following our main character, or the woman Joanna, and she was the queen during kind of like the Middle Ages. So it's going to be following her life. I know that she has a lot of intrigue with her. I don't know. I really don't know much about her. The synopsis says that it says a riveting history of a beautiful queen, a shocking murder, and a papal trial. The reign triumphant as any in the Middle Ages. So I don't really know what I'm getting into with this one. I just love Nancy Goldstone's writing, and I've loved all of the other books in some way that I've read by her. This is one of her older books. This one came out in 2009, so it's been a hot second. I've read a lot of her new stuff, but I love history. I love the way that she writes. Specifically, she writes the history. I think it's fascinating, and I think she has just an amazing way of like really telling a story, and this being sort of a biography about someone I don't know. I'm very interested. Also, I don't know a lot about like the Middle Ages. I read a lot of things when it comes to like Regency England. I read a lot of things when it comes to like Tudor England and things like that, but Middle Ages is a section of history that I do not know very well. So I'm really excited about this one. This one's probably going to be one that I dip in and out of. It might be like my ride home audiobook that I listen to when I come home from work, because it's a pretty long one, but that's when I can actually focus. And I've noticed with her books, I really need to focus on the story if I'm going to actually get anything out of it. So I'm excited about this one. And I have another Nancy Goldstone book on my list because I am trying to make my way through her stuff. So I'm really excited about this one. This one just kind of like randomly fell in my lap, but that's what I'm choosing for nonfiction. Number 4. A book under 200 pages. The next one is to read a book under 200 pages. So for this one, I'm going to choose a manga. And I should be choosing something that is in a series I've already started, but instead I'm going to choose a standalone manga because I've had it for a while and I'm curious about it, and we'll see what happens. It's one of the earlier ones that I picked up, and it's this one, which is I Love You So Much I Hate You. This is by Uni. This is a standalone female-female romance, and it follows a woman and her boss, but one of them is married, and I'm not sure if it's her or her boss who's married. But again, standalone romance. I don't really know what we're going to get from this. This is for older, like it's not, it's got like a parental warning here on the cover, so I know this is definitely not a YA book, and I've read a lot, I think primarily only YA manga, so I'm interested to see what a more adult manga is going to look like. I'm not sure if that's because of like sexual contact or anything like that. It just says parental warning, so I don't know if it's because of that or if it's just the conversations we're going to have in here. I don't really know, but I'm interested to see how it's going to go. Again, standalone, love that. We'll see if this one is for me. I've had it on my shelves for quite a while, so I'm excited to finally get to it and see what it's all about. I usually don't like books when it comes to like cheating. If that's mentioned in some way, I'm usually immediately out, but there was just something about this that drew my attention, so I thought I would give it a chance. Again, because it's only one, I'm feeling like it's worth it. It's going to be easy to get through because, again, manga. So this one, I don't know how many pages it actually is, but I can promise you that it's under 200. Yeah, I mean, it's in the 190s, but it's under 200. So we are going to be getting to this one sometime in June, and it's good to have some of these shorter things to kind of layer in throughout the month. Number 5. Read a graphic novel or manga. Speaking of a graphic novel or manga, the next one is a graphic novel or manga, and for this I'm going to be reading the second volume of Fence. This is a graphic novel series that I started a couple of months ago. Maybe I started it in April. I want to say I started it in April. I read the first one just randomly and really kind of got very interested in it. Like, not a lot happened. It's basically a graphic novel series that follows a fencing team, primarily 2 boys. We have one boy who kind of comes from nothing and is at this school on a fencing scholarship, which he has to be on the team to actually be able to still go to school. And then you've got a guy who has been basically training his whole life. He's like the best of the best, and he also goes to the school, and they end up randomly getting roomed together, so they become roommates, and they cannot stand each other. At the very beginning of the first volume, they kind of went head to head at a competition, and it did not go well for one of them, the one that's kind of comes from nothing, and so he's kind of got like revenge on his brain for this guy, and so they're both vying for spots on the same fencing team. So that's the point of this. I think there's going to be more to it. I don't know if there's for some reason in my head I feel like there's a romance in this story, and I don't actually know if that's true or not, but I've really enjoyed The first one, like not a lot happened, but I was emotionally invested in the characters, and there's only, I think, 5 or 6 volumes, so it's not too long. So we're gonna get to the second one and see if my enjoyment of it continues. I'm very excited. I will be reading these on Hoopla. I'm gonna be able to read them on like my husband and I have an iPad, so I'll be reading it on that. And we'll see. I don't think I want to own this series. I think I'm enjoying reading it, but I don't think I want to own it, and Hoopla has all of them. So I'm excited about this, and I'm going to have another installment and another short book, which is great because I have a lot of plans for June as far as like random books that I didn't think I was going to get to, plus I have all of my summer books. So shorter things are always better. Number 6. Let's see, this one. Oh dear, okay, Beccas Bookopoly. All right, the next one is Beccas Bookopoly, which basically means I need to go find the board that I used when we did Beccas Bookopoly-thon in, I think it was September, actually I think it was September of last year. And I'll see if I can find an old, like one of my old vlogs when I did that readathon and see where I stopped. And then it's basically just like a Monopoly board that'll give me a fun prompt. So I gotta go find that board, and then we'll see what that gives me. Here is the board from the last year's 2022 one. That's the one I had, and I just went back in my vlogs to see where I landed last so that I could kind of keep it going, and I landed on letters all the way over here. So I'll put this random heart thing that I found on letters, and then I found these ridiculously large die that I just really want to use. So we're gonna shuffle the die, and then we are going to see what the prompt's gonna be. Fingers crossed. This might be the most ridiculous thing I've ever done. Okay, you can't see it, but we have 5 and 4, so 9. So we have, ooh, third person. That's what we landed on. So the book has to be written in third person. All right, so that one gave me a book that was written in third person, which is significantly harder than it should be. I read a lot of first person. I don't read a lot of third person that I'm like aware of. I don't like go out of my way to not read third person. I just think I gravitate towards stories that are told in first, but I did find one, which is good because it's a buddy read, and that is The Recruit. And this is the next book in the Highland Guard series by Monica McCarty. This one I'm buddy reading with my friend Taylor. We're reading this entire series throughout the year, and I'm excited to see what the next installment is. I've enjoyed the last few. The one that we just read last month is not my favorite. It kind of like, there are parts of it I enjoyed and parts of it that I really didn't. So I'm interested to see where this one's gonna go, because we follow our main character, Kenneth Sutherland, who is a new addition to the Highland Guard. And we met him in the last book, and he drives me nuts. But I'm hoping that by having a story in his perspective, I'll tend to like him a little bit more. So I don't, per usual, really know the stories in here before I go into it. I just kind of know who they follow, and this is a name I do recognize, but only because we literally just talked about it. It does take place at what's called the Highland Games, which is a competition in the Highlands, and a lot of the people who were in this guard actually has won, and they haven't had a competition in a long time, and Kenneth is basically trying to win his spot on this secret guard that he kind of stumbles across. So I'm sure there's a woman involved. Yeah, there's someone named Mary that he is starting to fall for. So I don't know what her story is, but I have enjoyed a lot of these stories in the past. So this is just the next installment. It's a Scottish Highland romance. I love all those things, and I'm curious to see where we go in this one. But that is a buddy read that I needed to fit on, and it is written in third person, so that is exciting. Number 7. Ooh, a library book. The next prompt is library book. So for this one, I think I'm going to get a copy of this from the library, but I do have it on both ebook and audiobook as well, and that is The Roughest Draft, and this is by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. This is, I believe, their first adult book. They have written a bunch of YA books, and I have read at least one of their books. And I have another book by them. That's actually their most recent one. It's called Do I Know You? And that's on my summer TBR, and I do want to get to that at some point. But this one sounds interesting as well. I have very specific reasons for why this is on my TBR, but I am hoping to get to this one. It is a contemporary romance, and it does take place kind of during the summer in Florida. So I'm thinking this might be a good kind of like, maybe we'll see if it comes to the beach with me book. But this book follows our main two characters, Katrina and Nathan, and they have co-written so many books. And 3 years before this book starts, something happened and they had a big falling out and haven't written together since. And they haven't told the public kind of what happened. And so unfortunately for them, they have one book left on their contract. So they kind of hole up together in Florida, like I mentioned, to write this last draft. So it sounds like, to me, it's giving me the same vibes of like People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, as far as like the dual narrative and like something having happened that's causing two people to not really speak anymore, but they're basically being forced together so they can co-write one last book together. So I'm very interested in this. I've heard good things. My aunt's actually the one who told me I should read this. So I'm excited to see how it goes. Contemporary romance. Love it. Takes place during the summer. I'm very excited about that. So I'm excited to see what they're writing as far as for adults is, because I did really enjoy their YA book. It's just, again, YA contemporary, which is not my thing anymore. So I'm excited to see what their adult contemporary is going to look like. But this is the one I've chosen because literally any way I access it, it's going to be through my library in some way. Number 8. Ooh, a yearly reading goal. And the very last prompt for this month is a yearly reading goal. So I have quite a few of those. Some of them are like nonfiction, middle grade, things like that every single month. And I've already fit things in for that. So one of the goals that I've been really thinking about is doing better at my NetGalley shelf. So I do have quite a few on there that are kind of like back reads. They've been out for a while. I just really need to get to them and I haven't. But for this one, I'm going to go with one that actually, it's an ARC. It's the only one that I've asked for this year and I received it, and that is Business or Pleasure. And this is by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I've read not everything that this author has written, but I think almost everything. As far as like her adult stuff, I think I've read all of her adult things, but this is her most recent one. It's coming out in July, so I really need to get to my arc of this one. I talk about it a lot. It's been on my summer TBR. It's again a NetGalley arc, and I really want to get through those, so I'm really hoping to get to this one. This one's for sure going to come to the beach with me because I do a lot of my physical reading on the beach, and I have this on my Kindle, so I'm thinking this will be a good one to bring with me. But this one is like, this one sounds so fun. So this follows our main character Chandler, who is a ghostwriter, and she's always loved being a ghostwriter until very, very recently. She goes to an event for the person that she wrote a book for, and they don't even recognize her and they don't even acknowledge her. And so she kind of like goes to the bar, gets a little drunk, is a little upset, and hits it off with this random guy, goes home and has a one-night stand with him. And then she's like, you know what, that was not really the best one-night stand, but it happened. We're going to move on. And I'm going to move on to my next big project, which is a C-list actor who does a lot of, I think he's well known for a teen werewolf show. His name is Finn. So she meets up with him and discovers that he is the guy that she had said one-night stand with. And she's like, that's fine. We're just going to go in and we're going to be very professional about this. But she let slip one time that it was not the best night for her, and he thought it went really, really well. So they kind of have this pact while they're not working. She's going to basically teach him how to be better in the bedroom in like a weird, interesting way. So I'm very interested to see how it's going to work because, of course, feelings are going to come into the mix, and I just think this sounds so good. And I love Rachel Lynn Solomon's writing. All of her stuff has a lot of heart to it. There's always something else in her books besides just the romance. So I'm excited to see what that's going to be, what other things we're going to see. She always has hard-hitting moments in her stuff as well. So I have loved her stuff, but I do have the archivist, and I really need to get to it. So fingers crossed that this is the month that I do that, because it comes out in July, and I really need to read it. So one more thing that I want to add to this TBR before I go that I wasn't able to fit into any of the rolls. I did mention my middle grade at the beginning of the video, so I am going to roll that one over into this month. I still have part of my ACOTAR reread, so I'm in the middle of the third book, ACOWAR. So we're going to roll that one into the beginning of June, so I do have that one to read as well. But otherwise, everything else, I think I was able to fit the things that I really wanted to in my TBR, except for one thing, which is Texas Splendor. And this is the third and final book in the Texas kind of series trilogy by Lorraine Heath. And this I am doing with my friends, Taylor and Brooke. We've been reading the first 2 books in the series each month. So we're going to dive into all of Lorraine Heath's books, and this just happens to be the first one we're diving into. And this is the third and final book in this series. So this series basically follows 3 brothers, Houston, Dallas, and Austin. And they were all named after the cities that they were born in. So this third and final book follows Austin. And you do have to read these in order, I will say, because just some of the stuff that happens that I know is going to happen in the third book is based off of how the second book ends. So we follow Austin, who basically, due to circumstances, has spent the past few years in jail and has now come out. But I've really, really enjoyed her writing. Like, she's an author that I literally read nothing from, and I have devoured the first 2 books in the series. And y'all know I'm not a huge fan of Westerns, so the fact that I was able to dive so head over heels in love with these stories is amazing. So this is, like I said, the third and final book in this series, and then we'll start another series in July. But that is what I need to add to this list. Otherwise, I think that's my plans for June. We'll see. I've got some fun summer books that I need to fit in, because you guys know I've got a summer TBR as well. And if you've been looking at this list, did not get very many in. So I'll also have some of those maybe thrown in depending on what my mood is, but that is the plan for the month. So I hope you guys enjoyed my June TBR. As always, let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in today's video. I would love to know your thoughts on them, or if there's something that you are planning to read in June, please let me know what that is, what's on your TBR. If you've got seasonal reads like I do, tell me all your thoughts on what you are most excited to read this month. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so if I check all that out. And I'll see you guys in my next video.